Well, you knew this one was coming. Although I have to say, I didn't think that they would send Fantasy out for Icarus, which is the next map that's going to be played here, because Icarus is not a Terran-friendly map by any stretch of the imagination. So this makes me think that Fantasy has something special prepared. Well, of course he does. It's Fantasy, for God's sake. What am I talking about? Of course he has something prepared for this map, but let's do it. Except, down at the 8 o'clock position in brown is Jaedong scouting in... What? In the wrong direction? I think I almost had a heart attack there. But up at the 12 o'clock in white is Fantasy. As I said, this is Icarus. Not a friendly map for Terran players, although at the end of the last OSL, which was ages ago it seems now, Terran players did start to figure out the map. Obviously Fantasy did. That's what was so remarkable about Fantasy's OSL win, which is something that not many players have ever done, which is he was a Terran player and he won in an OSL that did not have Terran-friendly maps. In fact, they were very unfriendly to Terran, but he adapted to that, came up with great builds for the maps that didn't favor him, like Icarus, and took down his biggest threats, like Hyuk. Took down Hyuk on this map with a very good build, but... yeah, he's going to have to come up with something pretty special to fight off Jaedong. Jaedong's play is almost immaculate as of late. Yeah, the last few commentaries I did with Jaedong, last couple, people were commenting like, Jaedong, he doesn't look like he's in it anymore. He looks so sad, and his play isn't as ferocious as it used to be, which was definitely the case. But he's definitely starting to get back to that Jaedong level of play. So Fantasy should be scared. Very scared. Yeah, think of all the memories I've had with these two guys. I think this is still one of my favorite rivalries, because these guys just keep bumping into each other all the time. It's fantastic. I'd love to see another final between the two in the next OSL, which if you watch my Nuke at Night, I explain what the next OSL would be. It's kind of the My Star League thing. They're starting with the amateur tournament, which feeds into the regular OSL. Now, the thing that I'm not quite clear on is if the OSL, like the real pro OSL, starts during the amateur tournament or after the amateur tournament. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I do know that 12 amateurs will be able to compete with the pros and possibly move into that coveted round of 16 past the brand new round of 24 format. We'll have to see. I'm very confused about the whole situation, but as it unfolds, I think it'll get a lot more things will come into light. But Fantasy spots the spawning pool coming up, and he's already building his factory. That's what I know Fantasy for. And he has 2 SCVs on that gas instead of 1 or 3. Interesting. So it could be going for a 1 starport build. If he was going for a 2-port Wraith build, I think he would have 3 SCVs on the gas. But we'll have to see soon enough. Of course, he probably just had 1 SCV on the gas for a small period of time to get his factory up. But Jaedong already has his lair going, and he could be going for 2 hatch Muta, which is the best Zerg build to use on this map. It's become kind of a little bit predictable, I think, on the side of the Terran, but it's still a powerful build. I mean, the closer you are to the base, to the opponent's base, the better off it works, and I'd say that Jaedong is pretty well off as far as map positioning goes. He's not at diagonals, which would make this build almost impossible. But yeah, going for a 2-hatch Muta build, I think, is the way to go, and I think that's what he's doing, putting down the Spire. Fantasy is going to see this, though, so he sees the Spire up front, 1 creep colony going to be morphed to a Sunken at the front. And Jaedong is going to work with mutas, and more mutas. As Fantasy, what the hell is Fantasy doing? Fantasy, you wacky funster, you. But I think he's going to go with Vulture harassment to start it out, which is the best thing to do. If he can bypass that Sunken colony, which shouldn't be that difficult. It's pretty high up there. I think he could skirt by if he has the Vulture speed. But is he going for Vulture speed? Don't know. The armory out, so I think he's going for a Goliath build. I don't see the starport anywhere to indicate Valkyries, so I think this is going to be a Goliath build from Fantasy defend this off. He's going to have some excellent turret timing, though, if he wants to go for Goliaths. Because he can group up a pretty large number of Goliaths, but this is, no matter which way you go with this build, it's going to be difficult for Fantasy. Because if he goes for the Goliaths, which I'm pretty sure he's going for... Oh, hiding 2 of his Vultures. That's interesting. Just trying to make Jaedong, I think he has 1 Vulture maybe, and go for a run-by in a second. I think he was researching Vulture speed at that machine shop. So he could go for a devilishly powerful attack here to skirt by that sunken colony. Yeah, he already has the Vulture speed, so he's grouping up about 4 Vultures. He's going to try to do the run-by to see if he can get this done. Skirting by the natural expansion. Jaedong completely defenseless inside of his main, I think. All this is going to be so difficult. He has his Mutalisk morphing, but he's going to lose so many drones in this attack. Look at all those drones going down. Freaking Vulture terrorist Fantasy taking down all of these drones. This is going to have a huge impact on Jaedong's economy, but Jaedong smartly going straight for the main with those mutas, not even caring about these Vultures anymore. He said, okay, I have to get some damage done. I'll have to get by the sunken colony to protect my drones, but I have to go for the kill right now. Going for the Goliaths that just popped up. Fantasy trying to surround the Goliaths with the SCVs, but I think he's fighting a losing battle. Trying to repair that. Actually doing a pretty good job of repairing that Goliath, but Jaedong was actually getting on top of the Goliath to keep it from being repaired, make it harder for Fantasy to click on it. And now Fantasy, I think Fantasy just lost. I think he just lost. He has no way of fighting back the Mutalisk because he didn't go for turrets at all. So even though he's going to kill pretty much every drone, I think eventually Jaedong is going to be able to grind down the Goliath count. Yeah, the Goliath count is basically non-existent, and the SCVs are going to die pretty horribly, and Fantasy doesn't really have any way of... Yeah, he lost his Vulture too. I don't know how he lost that Vulture, but he lost his Vulture running back and forth between the natural expansion and the main of Jaedong, so Jaedong will be able to drone back up. Jaedong going for another Goliath kill. I think he almost... Yeah, he did take down that Goliath. One final Goliath here, and Jaedong is running low on mutas, but that's just because he's droning back up inside of his main, coming in with some Zerglings to help out. Oh, the perfect timing on that Zergling to surround the Goliath, take it down. And Fantasy's builds like this always hang on a needle's edge, man. Just a knife's edge. And yeah, it just takes something like this to break it down, and Jaedong, I think, has learned that about Fantasy, playing him so many times. He's able to spot the weakness in Fantasy's build, and he has no drones in the main at all. But Fantasy is actually starting to SCV back up. Jaedong doesn't have a lot of drones, and in fact, he's focused everything on drones. So Jaedong wasn't able to replenish his Mutalisk stock, so I think we've actually reset this game somewhat. I mean, obviously Fantasy lost a lot of SCVs, and Jaedong lost a lot of drones, but Jaedong is still on the 2 bases. He'll be able to get back up his Mutalisk count, and I think we're going to have another big battle soon enough. As, yeah, I think Fantasy can support those 2 factories still from that 1 base. So, a very strange game. This has kind of reset, and Jaedong will have to bide his time, find a good time to attack, and Fantasy will have to get up some damn turrets. He cannot afford to go without turrets, even with those Goliaths, because if he's separated from his main at all with this Goliath, all of his SCVs are going to go down, so he has to build turrets. That's a big disadvantage, of course, of the mech build, of the Goliath build. You have to keep those Goliaths together, and if you're not by the main, if you're going for an attack, you're going to lose everything inside the main, because the Mutalisk has so much more maneuverability than the mech army. And just look at this from Jaedong. He's completely focused on droning up, so this is a bit of a risk from him. Focused on droning up. He might have to put down another sunken colony too if Fantasy moves out with the Goliaths that he has. Of course, if he moves out with those Goliaths, he's going to leave his main completely vulnerable, and he knows that. So he is defending himself, and he might be going out for another base. I still don't see the engineering bay for him at all. Being another terrorist, some more terrorist vultures there, sniping the Zerglings. Now Jaedong is starting to make more mutas. Trying to make more mutas for another attack soon, I think. Grouping up his mutas. I don't know when he's going to decide to go out to attack, but I'm going to try to chase down. Man, quick reaction from Fantasy. Ridiculously quick, actually, to run back with the Vulture. And I'm not sure what Fantasy's plan is. He moved out with that one SCV, maybe trying to find another base from Jaedong. He's moving down to a weird position, actually. And both of the Vultures get sniped. Oh, hidden base, of course, it's Fantasy. And Jaedong actually has an Overlord down here that could scout this. He's moving up with the Overlord, perhaps looking for a hidden base. Does he really know Fantasy that well that he's looking for a hidden base? That would be almost psychic on Jaedong's part. But no, he's pulling away with the Overlord, perhaps looking for a proxy of sorts. But he's pulling away, which means he's not going to see that hidden base for a long period of time. It's at such a weird position. I don't think that Jaedong's going to spot it unless he gets a full scout of the main and what's happening with Fantasy's natural expansion. The natural shouldn't be that hard to scout with these mutas, but the main's going to be a little bit harder since the Goliaths are going to be in there to defend that. And Jaedong, I think, is going for the 10 o'clock position. Yeah, he's putting down the 10 o'clock hatchery, which I think would work out great for him because he'll be able to jump back and forth between the 10 o'clock and the 12 to attack and defend. And that's just a Mutalisk fly away. Hop, skip, and a Mutalisk glaive worm away. But now Goliath's in here getting ripped to pieces yet again. And still not an overwhelming amount of Goliaths for Fantasy. Still not enough to completely defend himself. So, yeah, lost some more drones, actually, though. So, Vulture terrorism still on the rise. We still haven't stamped down that terrorism. We need to get up the Homeland Security. But I saw that the Hydralisk Den was up for Jaedong. So, no telling what he's going to do with that. He could switch into Hydralisk to push the front. Or Lurkers, I think, would be a better choice for him to go for Lurkers. He actually cancels his third base. What is Jaedong doing? Cancels the third base with no resistance, no aggression from Fantasy to even make him take that down. But I think Jaedong is going for the game-ending kill. Fantasy could have actually outsmarted Jaedong by not putting down a base, making Jaedong think that he's still on one base. I don't know, though. Jaedong has got to be suspicious at this point in the game, not seeing that natural expansion up. He's like, wait a minute. How can he support more factories if he doesn't have another base? He's got to have another base somewhere. So expect Jaedong to go out with a Zergling or something to look for that base soon. It might take him a long time to scout it, though, since it is down at that weird position that he's already scouted with an Overlord, technically. So, yeah, Jaedong's going out with a single muta. He's looking around. Where's that base? I'm going to find it. Going down there, going straight down to that the 5 o'clock position. Eventually, he's going to find it and go for it with his mutas because it's just ripe for the picking. But here comes the muta looking around. Where's that base? Oh, he's going down. Is he going to pull back? No, he finds the base, and now Jaedong senses the blood in the water. He's going to go down there with all of his troops to kill these vulnerable SCVs. And Fantasy is doing the smart thing by moving out because he knows that all the Mutalists are going to be preoccupied at the 5 o'clock position, so they can use this opportunity to get some damage done at that natural expansion. Not to mention Jaedong is still only on 2 bases since he canceled that one. So interesting. Of course, Jaedong has already grouped up a healthy number of reinforcement Mutalisk on a trajectory course going straight for the Goliaths. Oh, Fantasy getting a lot of damage done. Snipes one muta, but only one as Jaedong flies back. He's still losing so many drones. Man, Jaedong, his economy is dwindling. Of course, Fantasy just now going for his second base, so this is a very low econ game, actually, from both the players. But now Jaedong, I think, is going for the game-ending kill. He has so many mutas. He can go for the main and get this thing done as Fantasy is working his way back with the Goliath. So here comes Jaedong. He's going to try to focus on the Goliath, take them down. But easier said than done. Man, the Goliaths going to cause a lot of damage, but the mutas are actually a fantastic counter to Goliaths. If you can't get in there, get that splash with the glaive worms. Fantasy trying to sneak by successfully into that main to snipe more drones. Man, not many drones left for Jaedong, but he has focused down all of these Goliaths. He's taken down all of them. And I think this is going to be Jaedong. Yep, Jaedong's game. GG from Fantasy. Oh, incredible. We're moving into the ace match. And I think we all know who SKT is going to send for the ace match. Although it could be actually a couple choices. It's going to be one of the Protoss players, but Let's find out who it is. Moving on to the ace match.